Zorgen dat er geld is voor onze infrastructuur. Door petabytes aan data van Nederland te beheren. Dat doen wij. Kijk wat jij kan doen als dataspecialist op werken.belastingdienst.nl.
So, hello and welcome to you all. I'm currently working at the Dutch government, at the tax administration, and I'll be presenting to you what we do with data and analytics in the Dutch government. So, I want to talk to you about some of our current stuff that we do. Firstly, I'll give you an introduction, who I am. I'll give you a background of the Dutch tax administration, what we do with machine learning and analytics, and I'll be presenting to you 2 cases of which we, in real life, at this moment, are using at the Dutch tax administration. And then I'll go to you about jobs/traineeships at the Dutch government. So, who I am Martijn van Latem. I'm currently working at DFNA, Data Fundamenten and Analytics. I'm sorry for my Dutch, but a presentation about the Dutch government in English is a bit harder because all of the things that we do are in Dutch. So I'm currently working at the department Data and Analytics at the Dutch Tax Administration. And before I did that, I went to the university here at the Radboud Universiteit Nijmegen, the Radboud University. I did a master's specialization in business analysis and modeling at the business department, and I did a master program in information sciences. And before that, I did a pre-master in informatics. During my master's, I worked at a consultancy firm, Itility, in Eindhoven, and I worked at ASML. And thereafter, I started a traineeship at the Dutch government, at Rijksoverheid, and I went to 3 organizations, the Ministry of Economics, the Ministry of Defense, and at the Dutch Tax Administration. In the Ministry of Economics, I worked with business intelligence. At the Ministry of Defense, I worked on a really big IT project, which included counter-ID, roadside bombs, and at the Dutch Tax Administration, I am currently working within the Data and Analytics department. So some background about the Dutch Tax and Customs Administration. The Dutch Tax Administration and Customs Administration is in the news almost every day for the past year. I tried to look at some English and news articles, but there are not a lot, but I found one. The Dutch government faces collapse over child benefits scandal, and it's the best translation that I found. The toeslagenaffaire, you all know it, at least if you read the Dutch news articles. I have to tell you, there are 3 departments in the Dutch Tax and Customs Administration. You have the normal taxes, that's the blue side of the Dutch government, the Dutch Tax Administration. You have toeslagen, the red department, the benefits department. They are working at huurtoeslag, so as rent benefits, at child benefits, etc. And you have the douane, the customs administration. I am working at the blue department, at the normal taxes, at least that's what I call them. So that's what I know most about, and I'm not working with the child benefits scandal, the toeslagenaffaire. But there were a lot of things that went wrong there, and not only at the Dutch tax administration, but around the government in total. And we will be hearing a lot about that the coming years, I think. But still, there are a lot of things are going wrong, but also a lot of things are going really right. Almost 10 million of tax aangiftes, applications come into the tax administration every year, and that's a process that's going really well. And also the Dutch tax administration is really popular as an employer, well, regardless of all the scandals that are currently in place. So a bit of background about the Dutch tax administration. We get 9.8 million of tax applications every year, 11 million phone calls, 12.9 billion that is within the benefit budget, that's what we pay every year, and 112 million cigarettes that are well, getting in customs every year. I tried to do that in data. We have what you saw in the movie beforehand. We have almost 6 petabyte from relational data. So from every one of you, everyone who's watching, everyone who's here. We don't have all your data, but we have quite a lot. We have 1,000 applications, and we have 2 data centers of our own. So that's why the Dutch tax administration is really big. You can do. Now I don't know what are your backgrounds in total, but yeah, there are a lot of backgrounds who are needed at the Dutch government and who are needed at the Dutch tax administration. So my next slide, this one, is about the data and analytics department. What we're doing, we are with 300 people. Most of them are data scientists, data engineers, also privacy and security members, and we are working on making the tax administration smarter. How we do that is by applying several machine learning techniques to improve the Dutch tax administration. And I'm going to show you 2 of those cases, but first I have to say that at the Dutch government, it's really important to work very precise and within the boundaries of what we can. Therefore, we work together with other government parties to ensure that we are working according to the law and the boundaries that we have, and that's well, it's how do I say that? That is regularly basically checked. Okay, so the 2 cases. I'm going to tell you about VAT carousel fraud, value-added tax, BTW carouselfraude for the Nederlanders. And I'm going to talk to you about a risk model on the sale tax, a risk model omzetbelasting.
50 billion euro. That's what fraudsters have been stealing from EU member states each year through so-called VAT carousel fraud, ever since the current VAT system in the EU has been installed. We explain how the fraud works. If a German trading company buys goods from another EU member state, it does not need to pay VAT. If it sells the goods onto another trader in Germany, it adds to the price 19% value-added tax. The company is required to pay this tax to the tax office, but under this fraud, it fails to do so. Before the tax office realizes this, the firm disappears. That's why it is called the missing trader. The trader at the end of the supply chain resells the goods back to another EU member state and asks the tax office to reimburse the value-added tax. Between him and the missing trader, any number of middlemen provide a buffer to hide the tax theft. Goods that are expensive or can be easily transported are ideal for VAT carousels, such as mobile phones, game consoles, luxury cars, carbon credits, drinks, precious metals, or electricity. Often enough, the trades are happening only on paper. There are no goods that are actually moving. In Germany, fraudsters stole 800 million euro in 2009 and 2010 through a VAT carousel with carbon credits. Another group of criminals defrauded the public by 60 million euro trading game consoles and computer chips. A smaller trader spent beer and soft drinks in a VAT carousel and pocketed over 5 million euro tax money.
Okay, so you just saw a simplified version of reality, and that's also what I present to you here. VAT carousel fraud, value-added tax, BTW carousel fraude. The two cases I present to you are both about fraud, but we do a lot of other things, which I'm going to tell you at the end of my presentation. So what happens? A German or another EU member sells products to here, to one of our Dutch companies. That's 0% on tax. Then, within the Netherlands, one company sells it to another, and that's including the 21% tax that we know nowadays. Can also be 7% or 0%, but that's irrelevant for this example. And then thereafter, company C sells it back to company A with a lot of side steps that are included. And well, at the Dutch tax administration, we expect those 21% tax we expect back. But that doesn't happen. So it should happen from company number B, but that doesn't happen. He doesn't pay because he will vanish. In Dutch it's called plof, but it's in English it's called vanish. It vanishes. And that's a big problem all over Europe, what you saw in the short movie. So I'm going to tell you a bit about how this works, because then you'll understand why we want to reduce the risk beforehand, before this even starts. So the chances of fraud are higher when we go up, and the time is going further. So a person starts a company that's 0 and 1. We have to check if he has a VAT number, or we have to give him a VAT number. That company does all kinds of things, it builds things, but well, most of the times it doesn't in this example, but it contributes to the environment and society, at least it should do. Then it has to pay taxes, and it gets money. And then it goes away. So what we want to do is we don't want to, at timestamp 6, we don't want to see this happening when we want to earn these taxes, but we want to know it beforehand. Preferably when someone starts a company and someone has these bad intentions. And also when you start a company and you have all the good intentions, you don't want to be blocked by these kinds of rules or processes that are in place. So what we want to do is we want to recognize companies earlier, and we do that with a regression model. So we categorize all the applications that are coming into the Dutch tax administration, and we do that by selecting the most risk, the ones with the most risk, and those we are going to check. So there's always a tax inspector in between. We are not the ones who say you cannot start a company and you can. We just give a risk degree, and those with the top risks are checked by the tax inspectors. And when everything is okay and the tax inspector says you are fine, you're free to go, then such a company does its normal business. But by doing this, we prevent that those companies will engage in fraudulent activities. Another one, the risk model sales tax, in Dutch OB negatief. The risk model sales tax, 2.27 million sales tax returns are filed every year, and we at the Dutch government, at the Dutch tax administration, only have capacity for 40,000 individual checks. and that is including the random checks that we always do. So we want to make sure that we check the right companies and the right tax returns. So that's why we built a model. I'm coming back to that hit rate in a few minutes, but we got a hit rate from 17%, which was the earlier model before we used machine learning. And nowadays we have a hit rate from 34%. And that increases our tax revenue 60 million euros a year. So how does this work? Someone does their taxes, in this case a company, that goes into a risk model. It's really bad to see here, but there was a line and that says risk model. And that results in a list. Those companies are free to go. They don't have to be checked. And those ones we want to check at the Dutch Tax Administration. And then a tax inspector checks the high risks, and he says there's nothing going on here, no correction. It's a negative correction, which means or he has to pay or he doesn't get as much as he would like, or it's a positive correction, and then we say, oh, well, you made a mistake, you get more than what you applied for. So it can go both ways, but most of the time it's either a no correction or a negative correction. So, and now I'm coming back to that hit rate. We have a random selection at the Dutch Tax Administration. That's with all our taxes the case. All of them are randomly selected, or at least a percentage of which are checked. And that's because of the fact that everyone should or could be checked on their taxes. The previous selection system, it was really a business rule model, had 17% chances of finding someone who is fraudulent, or at least who doesn't apply it as they should. And now we have our new model, which is again a regression model, has a predictive hit rate of 34%. And this means that with the same capacity, we get more taxes, but also it means when we have less capacity, we have an equal tax return. So how do we do this? For the ones who study data science, it's a lot more complex than I'm currently presenting, but I hope I give you an insight in what we do. But we use different machine learning techniques: classification, regression, anomaly detection, and they are all supervised, because otherwise within the Dutch government you have to do supervised learning, because unsupervised, well, we are not ready for that yet, I think. To do this, we got SAS as our application and Teradata as our database. And we have a large data warehouse where we combine, well, the 1,000 applications that you saw beforehand to make sure we can do analytics. And we don't only do machine learning, we also do a lot of dashboarding and also other kinds of analytics. But I thought these were the most interesting to present today. So why do we do this? We want to improve, and that's what I told you in the beginning. We don't only do fraud detection. We also want to improve the processes of the Dutch Tax Administration. Because earlier on, when you applied for een betalingsregeling, for a payment arrangement, you had to wait, well, weeks, sometimes even months, to get that arrangement, while you are in need to get such an arrangement. So we did this with a model, with a classification model, and there we got most of them, at least the ones that aren't that exciting, who want to get an arrangement. They now can get it within days. So that's quite a lot of improvement for the Dutch tax administration. We also want to improve our services. For instance, if you are better helped with a letter instead of a phone call, or with to go to someone who makes sure you do your good taxes, that we can do with also a classification model to make sure who gets helped by which service. And also, I just told you we want to reduce fraud. Okay, now my last slide. What can you do at the Dutch tax administration? We have a lot of traineeships. I followed myself the Rijksoverheid traineeship. It consists of both IT, data, and cyber tracks, and I applied the link below. We have het Rijkstrainee-programma. As a starter, you can apply for the general trainee program of the Dutch government, and all our jobs are at werkenvoornederland.nl. So I hope you learned something from this presentation, at least what we do with data and analytics. You can do a lot of things at the Dutch government in a lot of disciplines, so I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Are there any questions? Now we go to the next screen. Yeah, sure. The first question is, can you also work at the Belastingdienst with another educational background than computing science? Of course. We have a lot of fiscalisten, econometrics. We have a lot of people with a business administration background, but we also have people with mathematics as a background, because in computer science, you need mathematics, IT, and business people. So, and that's just the tax administration. The Dutch government is really broad. So, with a medicine background, you can also work at the NFI, at Forensic Institute, for instance, etc. So there are a lot of educational backgrounds with which you can work at the Dutch government. And within data and analytics, almost all beta backgrounds are preferred because of the mathematics that you had in your education. So besides jobs, are there also internships? Yes, there are. There are a lot. I didn't do it myself, but I know that on the Belastingdienst website, so on the tax administration website, there are internships which you can follow. And you can also ask our recruiter, who was here today, to get some information about that. Then the next question, do you get to decide the factors when deciding how to give risk degrees to companies? So, yeah, we do. It's a good question. we decide the factors with our colleagues, tax inspectors, because they know from daily basis what are the risks for those companies. So yeah, we do not do this on our own. So we look at the broad data, and we want to see if there are patterns, but also we get feedback from other tax inspectors to look at other factors. And do you get to look at individual cases or only broad? And that's a difference between the Dutch tax administration and the field. So the blue department of the tax administration and the field. The field looks at the specific and individual cases. They're also very interesting to work. And at the Dutch tax administration, we only look at the broad data. So we don't look at individual cases. And then what's the reason that you don't use unsupervised learning? Well, I don't know for sure if we cannot use, we definitely limited to use it by the public. So because unsupervised learning is harder to tell, at least in my experience. So what we try to do is use supervised learning, and that's also quite hard to explain to our government. But that's the reason that we don't use unsupervised learning. It's just harder to explain to people who don't understand those subjects. And I know for some of you it's very easy. Maybe you can help us explain better, but yeah, well, it's not. I think we're going there, but up until now we don't use it a lot. At least not when it involves people or companies. We can use that in some on some of our data when it's when it's not with a high risk profile. So well, the second part of the question is well, you don't. Okay, now let's go to another one. How do you do the supervised learning? Okay, we are doing that with SAS, the SAS suite, and there we apply all kinds of supervised learning techniques. I'm not a data scientist myself. I would have liked to present to you these cases with a data scientist, because he can tell you the details on this. But yeah, well, we use it within an analytics suite. Hopefully, we are going, and I think we are in the coming year, we are going more to an open source environment where we apply Python, for instance. But currently, we're doing supervised learning within SAS. And if that's it, I want to thank you all for being here, for listening to me. And I hope I answered all of your questions, and I hope you got enthusiastic about working at the Dutch government. Thank you.